This is from the Bleacher Report, ranking the 10 worst contracts in the NFL ahead of the 2024 season. Number 1, shock, shock, shock. They say Deshaun Watson. Cleveland went 5-1 in his starts in 2023, so there's optimism for success this season and beyond. Entering his age 29 season, Watson is squarely in traditional late prime years too. I wouldn't. If he slides, however, his contract without taking on significant money will almost be impossible. Number 4, they say Jeudy. We'll come back to Watson in a minute. In short, Jeudy has had better develop into a starter, although the fifth-year receiver flashed some encouraging signs in Denver, maxed out at 972 yards in 2022. Jeudy has intriguing upside, yet the Browns already heavily invested in him. They had Russell Watson 2 and Derek Carr 3 as the top 4 worst contracts. Watson's been hurt. I mean, he hasn't been able to play, so the contract doesn't look great. If he goes out and plays like he's capable of playing, we'll show you in a minute, that contract's going to end up being a bargain. I have no issue whatsoever with the contract with Jeudy at this point. I think they're crazy. The Russell Wilson contract's a problem because he's older. Watson is 29, and they haven't mentioned the 40-year-old Aaron Wilson, what the Jets are paying him. So, again, late prime years, not for a quarterback. I would disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I've already made my thoughts clear on Aaron Rodgers. And with Russell Wilson, I mean, you consider how much Denver paid to move on from him. That kind of says a lot there. But with Deshaun Watson, we'll start with him. I mean, even just looking at his game-by-game numbers, he only played he's played a grand total of 11 and a quarter games since January 3rd of 2021. And that's out of a potential 51 games. And if you want to include the playoff game, the Browns were in 52. So we're not even talking, we're barely talking 20% of the games out there. And if you want to talk about poor performances, his return game against Houston was not good. The Monday night game against the Steelers week 2 last season, that was not a good one. When he had those fumbles, the pick six, the couple face mask penalties, yeah, it wasn't good. But outside of that and outside of the game in Indianapolis, which he was clearly injured, he was clearly not himself. I mean, anybody watching that game could see that. I thought Deshaun Watson played pretty well. His mistake against the Ravens came on just an amazing play by Kyle Hamilton. I think we're forgetting that Kyle Hamilton is one of the best safeties in football, and he made an otherworldly play to get that pick six to start the game. And then Deshaun Watson on a bad shoulder, on a high ankle sprain, had that perfect second half to lead them to win. I think what it comes down to with Deshaun Watson, I've said a lot of times, can he be on the field? Can he play 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row? And when he does, I think that's when you start to see him be more consistent, start to stack performances together. And I think when that happens, it's not like Deshaun Watson forgot how to play football. It's still there. We've seen glimpses of it. It just comes down to consistency. And I think that comes down to more reps. And then with Jeudy, we literally just talked about Russell Wilson and how that was a bad contract, how the Broncos had to pay to get out of it. And Jeudy had his 2 best seasons, his best and third best season the last 2 years when Russell Wilson was his quarterback. And yeah, he's getting paid about 19 million and change, but that feels like the going rate right now for a lower end number 2 receiver, because receivers are getting into the 20s and the 30s and millions of dollars per year. So it's essentially a buy low. It's essentially a gamble on Jeudy. I get that because you're still waiting to see him have a 1,000-yard season, but certainly in Cleveland with Deshaun Watson, who'd be the most talented quarterback he's played for, at least at this stage of his career, with a creative offensive mind and Kevin Stefanski, you add in Ken Dorsey, it certainly feels like a chance for Jeudy to blossom and really show the kind of player he was drafted to be coming out of Alabama.
So I mentioned, the contract with Watson. These are the highest paid quarterbacks. Average per year is what it is based on. Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow now making $55 million. Jared Goff, 53. Justin Herbert, 52.5. Lamar Jackson, 52. Jalen Hurts, 51. Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and Patrick Mahomes, $46 million. How is it that Kyler Murray isn't in the boy he's overpaid conversation or a really bad contract conversation? He just hadn't lived up to be. I mean, you could argue he's been a bigger bust as the top overall pick than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I mean, at least Baker Mayfield's got a playoff win to his credit, and I will admit, I think Baker has had a better situation in Cleveland before he was let go than what than what Kyler had in Arizona. But even looking at that list, I see the third guy on that list, $46 million, Patrick Mahomes. How much do you want to bet he should be making 70, 80 million dollars? I mean, you could pay that guy $100 million a year, and I think that'd be great value for Patrick Mahomes because right now he's arguably the best quarterback outside of Tom Brady in NFL history right now. I'm not afraid to say it because he's just been that special. And when you look at that list of quarterbacks, obviously Trevor Lawrence being the top, that's just, the quarterback market continuing to explode the way it has. And
I
with
think
Lamar Jackson, 52 million, I think that's good value as long as he continues to develop as a passer, which we saw him struggle with that against Kansas City in the conference championship game, but still an extremely good player. But with Deshaun Watson at 46 million, I think it just comes down to being on the field. And when he's out there, I think he gives you more at his best than Kyler Murray can. We saw Kyler Murray play well when he came back at the end of last season. The Browns were kind of lucky they didn't have to face him. Otherwise, that would have been a much tougher game than the one they had against Plain Tune. But yeah, I think for 46 million, I would easily take Deshaun Watson right now over Kyler Murray.
the other one is Jared Goff at 53 million. The Rams gave him away, and then he went and they found a way to make him successful in Detroit.
That's the power of Ben Johnson right there and the talent that Brad Holmes brought in with the Rams. I mean, you look at that team, it is so incredibly loaded with talent, pretty much across the board on offense, on defense. And Jared Goff, all he really has to do is kind of play point guard on that team. And good for Jared Goff to kind of get that money. And he's cashed in on a once in a lifetime situation where, like you said, the Rams gave him away from Matthew Stafford, won a Super Bowl. And here Goff is being the quarterback of the Lions, who you could argue are as talented a team in football as any, with the best drafter in football right now in Brad Holmes. So maybe I don't know if he's as good as $52 million right now. If I'm Detroit, I'm still kind of in the back of my mind, at least considering a long-term developmental prospect. But I think for what the Lions need right now, Jared Goff is just enough. Obviously, that second half, though, in San Francisco in that NFC Championship game, that would give me a little pause at that dollar value.